for cold, hard sports talk with your hosts, Ty Gore, Matt Barrett, and Jake Woods.
All right, everybody. We have a very special guest with us today, a former 6-year SPHL veteran, played in the OHL, QMJHL, and he's played with current friend of the podcast, Nolan Kaiser, Kyle McNeil. Kyle, how's it going, man?
Good, thanks, guys. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Good.
So let's hop right into it. So first off, you're a kid growing up in the Toronto area. What was that like playing minor there, especially with all the talent consistently coming out of the Southern Ontario region?
Yeah, so I grew up in Cambridge, which is about an hour outside of Toronto. So the Toronto-based teams, we didn't get to play until tournaments, but we were pretty much anywhere from Cambridge, Kitchener-Waterloo, all the way to Windsor. That was kind of our loop. But yeah, going to those tournaments in Toronto around Christmas, I remember that one especially, it was like massive.
All right. And with that, let's head into speed up to 2004. You're drafted in the 9th round by the Petes, and you didn't end up playing a game for them until 2006. What was the process there? Like at camp, did they just reassign you, or how did that all work out?
Yeah, so I went to camp 2004, and how it works, I think it's the same as the WHL and the Q, is that the first round pick automatically signs, he plays usually, and then the second round pick, and then there's a wild card. So I ended up making it until 2006, so I just got sent down. So in 04 to 05, I decided to play actually junior C hockey instead of going back and playing major midget. Looking back now, I probably went back to midget. Junior C was an absolute shit show. So I decided the following year, I made the jump to junior A in Burlington, and I had a pretty good year. I mean, half a point per game, over 100 PIMs, pretty standard for my career over time. And then I went to camp in 2006. Sorry, going back to 05-06, the Petes went to the Memorial Cup that year. So they won the championship. I really didn't stand a chance to make the team. They had, I think, 15 players drafted to the show. So it was like, there's Jordan Stahl. I mean, the list is endless. And I didn't really stand a chance. So I go back in 06 to camp, make the team. I'm in and out of the lineup kind of the first month and a half, 2 months. And then Steve Downey gets sent down from Philadelphia, and I'm out the door.
So at that point, what was the process for you as a player? Was it just a cut and wait and see, or were you?
Yeah, so you think you have 48 hours to clear waivers in the OHL, and then you can go anywhere in like major junior hockey. You could the W or the Q. And I didn't have an agent at the time. I would never had an agent until this point. And then my dad and I sat down, and actually my dad was making phone calls to like Peter DeBoer, who was head coach at Kitchener, saying, "Hey, give my son a chance." And it was I didn't know this till after the fact he told me. And I was like, wow, look at my dad. Like, he's grinding. And didn't get a tryout with him, but got an agent. And then he's like, "Hey, I can get you probably to the spec league." And I was like, yeah, that works for me. Like, I already ruined my NCAA eligibility. I wasn't smart in school anyway, but he gives me a choice between Moncton, New Brunswick, and Victoriaville, and in Quebec. And went back and forth for a day. And then they end up signing another guy Moncton ended up signing another guy from the OHL who got cut to be their kind of tough guy. So then I had no choice. I went to Victoriaville. I flew out like immediately, like the next day. Got picked up at the airport. Everything was fine. We get to the end of the city, and I was shocked that like no one spoke English at all. Like, it was all new to me. I never been outside, like lived outside the province at that point. And I got there, and it was like I couldn't order coffee at Tim Hortons. Like, that's what, like, it was crazy. I would just like point at them, give me that. Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Pretty big culture shock, eh?
Yeah, it was, especially like you're only an hour and a half outside of Montreal, where they speak pretty much English all the time, and then you get there and it's like no English.
Did you how's your French now? Like, did you learn a lot of French during that time?
You know what? Everyone always asks me that. And I'm like, no, like I can swear in French. That's about like all I remember picking up. But like, if there's two French guys having a conversation, I'll understand because it's all slang now. So like, you hear them say certain words, and you pick up like, okay, hockey, beer, talking about hockey and beer. Like it's pretty easy. Yeah.
That's not so bad then. Do you have a lot of English speaking teammates, or was it mostly Quebecois on the roster?
Yeah, Quebecois. So I got there, and the first guy I met was Jason Demers, who plays for Arizona Coyotes now, defenseman. We're still in close contact, so I'll talk to him. It was him and another guy, the Euro from Czech. We only English guys. Coach spoke in French, so it was like impossible. If the coach really wanted you to like know what was going on, he just said fucking like swore all the time to kind of get his point across to you, like he's meaning it towards us, the English guys. So that was kind of weird, but yeah, I remember like we were isolated at the rink for school online to English guys, and the French guys went to school like at a regular school. So yeah.
Wow. So a whole different world out there then.
Oh yeah. Probably changed now, don't get me wrong, but I think I saw now that the coach has to speak in English.
That's good then.
Yeah, I think.
And being a tough guy on that team and just like not being able to communicate with your teammates, do you feel like there's kind of like you kind of had to prove yourself on the ice to really like bond with them?
It was
like,
scary. I mean, you guys know the Quebec Fighting League, LNAH, and the Quebec's like the little system for it. I mean, like I didn't feel pressure to fight, but I knew I was there for that reason. There was no other point of me being there. Like, I'm on the fourth line, I ain't moving. And it was like, you get your 3 or 4 shifts a game, and you knew when it was time. Like, did they send their guy out? I go out. It's like, yeah, let's do this thing. And then, like, after the fight's over, the announcer acts like it's a wrestling event. Like, going to the Bucks, number 28, Kyle McNeil. It's like I scored a goal. Like, that's how crazy it was. And, like, that was the toughest league I played in junior. Like, I fought guys like Joel Recklich, who played in the show for a little bit, Brett Gallant, who was on that Enforcers movie, Nicholas Delurier from Anaheim. It was, and like I was, to be honest, I wasn't really a fighter. Like, I was just put into that role because I was big. And like, yeah, I don't know. I never took a boxing lesson once in my life. Never did that in the summer or anything. I just kind of get in there and chuck them kind of thing and hope for the best.
And just looking at the league as a whole, unlike the other 2 junior leagues, there is a lot of teams in small town, kind of isolated locations in Quebec. What was it like playing there, especially on the road?
Yeah, the road, like we didn't have sleeper buses in junior. I don't think the OHL or W do either. And that's like, if you have a sleeper bus, it's a game changer because you can sleep the whole time, but you're on a coach bus and it's difficult. So I remember busting all the way to Val d'Or before I played there. And it's a little town of, I don't know, probably 25,000. And yeah, it was like just so quiet and weird. And then when I went to Bathurst, New Brunswick, it was a small town of like 12,000, the smallest junior city in Canada and major junior. So it was really like different.
For sure. So going ahead to 0809, this is your 20-year-old year, correct?
Yep, correct.
Yeah. So you played 8 games for Val d'Or, and then you ended up going back to Ontario to play in the Junior A circuit. What led to that decision?
To be honest, I didn't think I played as a 20-year-old in major junior. Like, I'm a tough guy. They saved those 3 spots for the skilled guys. And Val d'Or had shown interest, and Bathurst had called me and like, hey, Val d'Or wants your rights. And I was like shocked, like, why? They're like, they want to sign you this year. I'm like, okay, sweet. Because at that time, the 20-year-olds got paid like $500 a week, and it was like, this is awesome. Like, I'm a young kid with $500 a week to spend on crazy, just anything I want. And so I go, and we flew the first trips on the East Coast. So we actually flew from Val d'Or into Moncton and then bussed around to all the teams over like 2 weeks or a week and a half. And we lost every game. I remember that. It was bad. I was fighting just for my life, essentially. One game I fought 3 times with my parents there in Moncton. And we get back to Val d'Or, and I knew change was coming. It was only going to happen. Got the call, went into the change room. Coach like, hey, like, we're going to go a different route. Like, here's your plane ticket, some money, leave when you want. And that was about it. And he's like, do you want me to put your name on the market? And I was like, yeah, you can, but you don't have to. At that point, I kind of wanted to go home. So I came back to Ontario. I wanted to go back and play in Burlington because I had a friend on the team, Phil Brewer, who was playing there. And I went to meet with their coach after. He's like, yeah, we'd love to have you, but we're not going to give you any money. And at that point, it was like back then, it was kind of you're playing for money. Like if you come back from the OHL or major junior, like you'll get more money than probably another kid would. So I come back and he's like, I'm not going to give you money. I'm like, okay, like I'm good. I'm leaving. Not that I didn't want to be there, but I knew I could get some extra money playing somewhere else. So I come back, I go to Elmira, Ontario, which is the Junior B, the Greater Ontario Junior Hockey League. And the hockey coach that time was actually my grade 10 math coach back in the day. So I go there, I meet with them, and they agree to give me some gas money kind of thing. I'll leave it at gas money. And I go there and I have a great year. Coach, me and Jeff Hadaway got along perfect. He kind of put me in the right mindset, and he knew like, Kyle, you can be a player in this league and just got to prove yourself. And sure enough, you guys saw the stats that kind of exploded there.
Yeah, the stats really speak for themselves. I got them in front of me, 47 points in 32 games. But the number that stands out the most to me is you racked up 131 PIMs in 32 games. I know in Major Junior, you were kind of an unexpected tough guy. Did you expect to be playing a tough guy type role down there as well, or did that just carry over?
It just kind of carried over. My favorite player growing up was Todd Bertuzzi. So I kind of wanted to be like him, a guy that can score and a guy that could fight. In Major Junior, I wasn't given that opportunity. I was kind of like, you're fighting or you're gone. So I get there, and when you fight in Junior B, you get a 10-minute misconduct and you're kicked out of the game. So that's how the PIMs add up, and you get them like that. And the 5-minute major fighting, 10-minute misconduct, kicked out of the game. So there's 15 PIMs just like that. So it added up pretty quick. I mean, when I came back from the Q there, it's like the league takes notice, like, oh, this guy, they signed a tough guy. Like, so who's going to take a shot at him? And then there's always a young rookie who wants to like, hey, give me a shot. It's like, nah, wait your turn kind of thing until I'm ready. But yeah.
Was there a fight limit at the time? Because I know in Junior A now there's a fight limit. Was there any back then?
No, nothing back then. But you're correct. I know now it's a limit. I think in the OHL it's like 5. And then after that, every time you fight, it's a 1-game suspension. Next time it doubles.
Was there ever any games where you're like, hey, I've got 24 goals in 32 games, 47 points. Maybe I shouldn't be fighting. Maybe I should just be trying to get us the goals here.
Actually, I think I could have got 30. I just got suspended twice. One was a 4-gamer, one was a 5-gamer. So that's how I only had 32 games played. I just got suspended, and yeah, like I was given every opportunity to be on the ice. That's just sometimes I had to fight.
So the following year, you end up going to Brock University.
Yep.
So for one, from jumping up from Junior B to CIS is impressive in itself. Was there anybody else calling at the time, or was Brock the only offer to take?
Brock, Nipissing, which is up north, and then Ryerson in Toronto. And I didn't want to go to Toronto, to Ryerson, because I knew I wouldn't do any schoolwork. Honestly, I knew it'd be a mess. I had friends living there. So I choose to go to Brock. I go there. I had terrible grades. I wouldn't have terrible grades, but I wasn't an A+ student, leave it at that. And I get to Brock, and I remember the day I go meet the coach, say hello kind of thing, fill out paperwork. The next day I'm accepted. I'm like, holy crap, I'm a university student. How did that happen? And I go there in September. Coach was awesome. Didn't play a whole lot, but I hadn't been in school in 4 years, so it was something cool to go back on. And go there, I played the year. Don't have a great year, but whatever. And I knew after that year that I would not be accepted back into school. I just didn't do schoolwork. And not that I didn't party, I just didn't do schoolwork.
From the on-ice perspective, then playing school hockey, which obviously is not less physical, but there's not the obvious fights. There's not the staged fights or whatever you want to refer to them as. Did that change your game at all? Did you feel like, now that I have this aspect of my game that makes me valuable to a team gone, I have to do something else?
Yeah, I kind of felt like after that year in Junior B, I had a lot more confidence in me. Like, I knew going to CIS, you can't fight. That's just the bottom line. And I had to be a player, essentially, learn how to penalty kill. That's pretty much what I did there. And then yeah, I went there. I was a bit better shape than I was in junior, and yeah, it was different though. Like, coach loved his like top six forward. Those guys didn't change. Bottom six, you just stay there no matter what. So it was different, but I needed that, not to just think about fighting all the time and kind of just think the game more than just with my fists.
Do you feel like that was kind of instrumental with you going on to play pro later?
Yes and no. I don't know. After I played that year at Brock, I was like, I think I'm done with hockey. And then I went and played senior hockey, senior AAA hockey here in Ontario and Brantford. And I kind of had more confidence there, but I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to make it happen. And then I knew if I wanted to get back to play pro, that I had to be a fighter again. It was just the bottom line. Like, I wasn't skilled enough to play. And playing senior hockey in Ontario, especially in the AAA loop, it's all ex-pro players. You look at the rosters of like Dundas and Brantford and Stony Creek, like there's probably 5 to 10 NHL players, and the rest guys played like minor pro overseas. It's crazy. And so I went there. I thought I was done. And then a guy who kind of helped me out with Chad Spur, who played in the Central League back in the day. And he's like, you're 21 years old. Like, you don't like school. So why don't you just go try and play pro? Like, give it a shot. And I was like, yeah, maybe I will. And ended up skating that summer with a guy named Chris Levier. He played a long career in the coast, in the AHL and SP. And he wanted me to come down and try out. And I was like, talking to my parents about it. They were kind of like, well, I've never even heard of this league. And I was like, yeah, me neither. Like, let's be honest. And my dad kind of like, yeah, go give it a shot. Why not? I was like, all right. So me and 3 buddies drive down, get to Fayetteville, and training camp's like 5 days in the SP. It's like, you're in, you're out kind of thing. And to get there, I end up making the team. Yeah, and rest goes on. You guys ask more questions. Sorry.
So the one you were actually talking about before you came on, the one that stands out the most, you're going to play pro. How do you tell your parents, like, hey, I'm playing pro hockey with the Fayetteville Fire Ants? Like, how did that land?
Yeah, making $175 a week too. Big money. Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, it was, my mom and dad were always supportive of me in whatever I chose, and they loved like that I played hockey, and they never pushed me. It was all me, and they're kind of like confused, like, why would you want to go? I'm like, whatever, just go. So I go, I get there, everyone. But that time, if you were a rookie, it doesn't matter if you played Division 1 or Division 3 or OHL, you're making $175 regardless. Yeah.
Everybody had the same contract. It's just, hey, you're signed here and this is what we're paying here, right?
That was the rookie pay. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Rookie pay. After that, then you get more money as years go on. But yeah, it was different. But yeah.
And we've heard some stories about the earlier days of the SP. DeSalvo mentioned it when he was on the fuss, that it's a line brawl basically every other game. As a skater walking into that, and a guy who has fighting experience, knowing you're going to have to drop the gloves every couple nights, what was that like?
Yeah. So I make the team. My 2 buddies get cut. I still hold over their head to this day about their little week vacation with me, supporting me, and Ryan and Steve I still talk to. But yeah, I make the team, and then my roommate was like an actually assistant captain, Chris. And I was like, hey, why'd you guys pick me over my 2 buddies? My other buddy had been to 2 NHL camps in the past. He was in Toronto and Chicago. He played 5 years in the OHL. And I'm like, why did you guys pick me? They're like, well, we thought you could fight better than the other 2. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm big as I am now. I was out of shape, but I could fight. So I make the team, I fight. I didn't fight the first 4 games, 5 games. I was a little nervous, and then kind of got the nudge from other players on the team, like, hey, if you don't start fighting, like, you're out the door. I was like, okay, I guess I'll start fighting. So I think I fought in Columbus, Georgia against Mitch Wall. I can't really recall, but I fought, got away. I'm like, okay, I can do this thing. And then from there, kind of more and more confidence in the fights, and kind of putting on the show back then, I guess, throwing the gloves, taking the elbow pads off, toss them away, kind of getting the crowd going. But yeah.
It was like something straight out of like the Goon movie, hey?
Honestly, it was like that. It was like you knew who the tough guys were, and you weren't going to get around them. It was like, I remember, for instance, like it was a big night. I remember from 2011 to 2013, I think the league was kind of tough. After that, it kind of came more skill. for those 2 years, it was a Saturday night at home, and you had a jersey auction for, say, for, I don't know, breast cancer awareness night or something like that we did. Jerseys get auctioned off after. Those are usually big money nights for the team. So what we would do, we'd come in the locker room, and a fan would come in the locker room and be like, first fight, $100. Second fight, $50. So then after they leave, we're fighting each other like, no, I'm going up here. I'm going first. Like, just trying to pick a guy to scrap with. Yeah, it was pretty wild back then.
Wow.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so, especially playing in markets like Fayetteville, North Carolina, Macon, Georgia, Knoxville, Tennessee, was the fighting something that the fans really got interested for? Like, was it like a European football scenario where they didn't really understand what was going on, but they knew punches were good kind of thing, or what?
Yeah, it was definitely. It was more fight. If you have 50 goals, they don't give a shit. If you don't have 5 fights, whatever. Well, I have a guy with 5 fights. It was like they loved the fighters. Like, everyone got into it. Those jerseys always went the highest in jersey auctions. All the fighters. Yeah, but like what Pete said, I played with Pete actually in my last year, but what Pete said was pretty much right. Like, it was a line brawl every other night. Like, it was even like, I remember my parents flew in once. We were playing Mississippi. We were getting spanked like 5-1. I remember getting a nudge from the coach and looking at me and going, go run the goalie. And I was like, pardon? I was like, run the goalie. And I was like, my parents are here. Like, come on, man. He's like, do it. I'm like, okay. So I go on the ice. The play is going this way. I'm going this way by myself. And the goes, what are you doing? I just go to him. I just hit him. And I'm like, I turn around, and there's 5 guys with their gloves off trying to chase me. I'm just trying to pick a guy. Pick one. Try to throw 4 or 5 punches and just go down and hide so I don't get murdered.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Was there any, like, as you were like doing it, like, how do you actually run a goalie? This isn't something that like you practice. Like
yeah.
How am I supposed to do this intentionally?
Yeah, and like I was pretty obvious what I was doing. Like, I ran the goalie. I just turned around. I remember to this day, I was like, my eyes were going like, who am I gonna fight? Who am I gonna fight right now? Like, it's trying to pick the smallest guy essentially. Yeah, debacle.
No kidding.
Over.
Wow.
Over.
Did you ever end up talking to the goalie after? He's like, hey man, sorry.
Yeah, I think it was Kiefer Smiley actually, and he was a tough. He actually probably had 5 or 6 fights in the league, but yeah, I mean, we always saw each other after games because you kind of walk the same way and kind of laugh about, oh my god, that actually happened, kind of thing. Yeah, so it was crazy.
So you were in the SP for a while, and you were there when the game really started to evolve to a more skill-based game. Did you notice the difference in the fans there? Like, were they starting to understand, okay, this is how hockey should be played, or was it still kind of the same issues as before?
Yeah, I mean, fans still liked the fighting, but they knew the game was, I guess, changing in a way. You saw anything from the NHL down. Once the NHL does it, it kind of follows the ladder, right? So fighting kind of started to go out of the NHL, and then it kind of goes down the East Coast and down to us. And fans realized it. I mean, but now the game's just faster, and fans think that's amazing. Like, it's so much better than it was 7-8 years ago.
Was there a moment, because I look at your stats and you had one season with 123 PIMs and then the next season 65. Was there a moment where you saw the league, like, was there one moment where you were like, okay, this league is different now?
Yeah, so there was 2 moments. After my first year, I came back home out of shape. We changed coaches. The coach called me and said, hey, Kyle, you want to come back? And I said, yeah. He goes, okay, lose 20 pounds and we'll talk, kind of thing. Like, that's how blunt it was. I'm like, all right. So I started doing CrossFit. I didn't know what it was. I dropped like 30 in like 2.5 months. Called the coach, like, yeah, I did it. He goes, okay, I'll send you a contract. Sends me a contract. I go to camp. We have the best year, I think, in Fayetteville history. Actually, no, they won before. It's not history, but we had the most wins in SP history in the regular season to that point. I think it's been broken now by Huntsville. But then after that season, my 3rd year, Greg McCauley came in and coached, and then he had to leave for health concerns, I believe. And then we brought in a guy who used to play against Emery Olafson, who was coaching in, I think, Saskatchewan and Flin Flon. And he's like, yeah, I want the job. So he drove from Flin Flon, like within a day, all the way down to Fayetteville. They didn't take him one day. It took him a couple days, but
That is not a long
team.
drive, and it's not a good drive either.
In a Volkswagen Jetta, if I believe correctly. Yeah. So he had ties to Fayetteville because his wife now is from Fayetteville. So he's like, yeah, I want this job kind of thing. So he comes down. We had a meeting, and he's like, Kyle, you're going to become a player in this league. Like, I played against you. I know you can play. I said, yeah, I want to be a player. So he gave me every opportunity from January on. That's when I had a successful, like my first 16 goal. I had a double in goals from the year before kind of thing. And I was playing in power play and PK. So that's really when I kind of saw like I can really make a difference for my team now instead of just fighting.
So moving on to 2015-16, after 4 years in Fayetteville, you move on to Huntsville with the Havoc. First off, what led to that move?
So in the SP, at the end of the season, you just throw on a protected list of 12 players you want to protect that no one else can touch around the league. So you can sign those players or don't sign them. It's up to the team. They don't become a free agent. The rights are still with that team. Even if they don't want to play, it's like say I was protected by Fayetteville, but they didn't want me. I just can't go and sign with another team. They got to give my rights to another team kind of thing. So that was the first year I went unprotected. So I was a free agent. And that's when you kind of know the team doesn't want you back. Like you're gone. We've had enough kind of thing. Move on. So it was new to me. I didn't really know what to do. And then like honestly how it kind of works is word of mouth, like who wants to talk to you kind of thing. I remember getting a DM on Twitter from the assistant coach. Hey, Kyle, do you want to have a chat? And I was like, yeah, sure. It's Jesse Kalki, actually. He was assistant coach now with the Florida Everblades. But when I have a chat kind of thing, yeah, give him a number, call me. I call him. We go over, just talk about hockey in general and what I would mean to them if I came. I said, yeah, just give me a couple of days. I kind of want to think about it. And then I talked to Mississippi too at the time. And they were kind of more pushy, like, hey, sign now or never. And I was like, nah, I'm good. So then I go to Huntsville. And I was like ecstatic to be there. Like I knew at that time I could really play. And Glenn DeTulio has been a coach there for a while now. He really put me in the right mindset to be successful on the ice.
And right away, for your first year in Huntsville, you immediately get the A. What was that like being a captain for your first time as a pro?
I had it in my third and fourth year too. It's just not listed.
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah, I that's all good. And I didn't get the A until I want to say November in Huntsville. They kind of left one up in the air, kind of just to kind of see who was going to like take off. And I remember I didn't score the first 4 or 5 games. I was kind of like pissed at myself, like, Kyle, come on, man. Like, you want to be here, make a difference. And Glenn had texted me after one of the games, and he just said, just relax, Kyle. You're going to be fine. Like, it's going to happen soon. And then after that, I just kind of started exploding. Like, I was scoring all the time. I was playing well. And then one pregame skate, Glenn's like, Kyle, lead the stretch, the new captain, that kind of thing. And that's when I kind of stepped into it there.
That's awesome. Now, there's one story from your year to Havoc we had to get to. When Kaiser was on, he told us about, I believe it was his first pro fight. And
yeah.
I mean, we posted the video on our socials if our listeners haven't seen it
saw
yet.
it.
Yeah. I mean, pretty dirty cheap shot at the end. And he said you were the one that held him accountable.
I actually forgot about it, but then I saw it. I'm like, wow, because that was my first game back in Fayetteville since I had left too. Oh. So I had fought before Kaiser had fought, kind of thing like, I'm going back into the town that loved me and I'm going to make a difference and I'm going to fight right away. So I picked the guy who wanted to fight. Like, let's go. Goes, no problem. So we fight. It was actually a great picture of me fighting with him and the crowd's all standing up in the background. It was awesome. But then Kaiser fights. And I remember him at the locker room, like, Kaiser, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I used to do some dirty stuff, but like, that's just ruthless. You're going to get suspended. And he's like, oh shit, kind of thing. You guys knew his reaction. And sure enough, he didn't. But I was like, I'm not surprised, actually. I've seen crazy shit and no one been suspended for it. So, yeah.
So, like, you see him fight, and that's like his first fight, and you're probably in the stands or getting dressed or whatever, and you're probably looking at it like, what is this guy doing? Like, what's going through your mind as you're seeing your teammate doing this in his first fight?
Once I saw that happen, I'm like, he's going to be a dead man the rest of the game or like next game. Like, and he said it. He's like, it's like at the red line during warm-ups, the people are just staring you down like, we're going. You have no choice. And you're like, yep. I mean, Kaiser's mind, he's probably like, I do have no choice. I'm fucked if I don't fight.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
I just want to ask about two other players who kind of we've heard a lot about on the pod. One we've interviewed, Peter Mad Dog DeSalvo. What was he like as a teammate? What was he just like as like a guy to share a locker room with?
He's a good guy. He's a goalie. I'll say that.
Yep.
But I'm sure he would acknowledge that too. He stepped in the year after me in the league. But yeah, I remember playing against Mississippi a lot. Good goalie. Obviously, he's chasing a record right now, and good for him. Happy for him. But yeah, I played Pete a short amount of time my last year in Fayetteville. It was a bit of an absolute mess that last year in Fayetteville, to be honest, with coaches and players. And yeah, so I haven't talked to Pete in a while, but he's still plugging away.
The other guy I want to ask about is someone we've known as a very tough guy, and that's Jeremy Barons.
Yep. Jeremy was insane.
Did you ever go him?
No, God, no. I wouldn't fight that guy. He was a punisher, man. Like Kyle said, 30 fights that year. Like he could play too. That was the difference. He could actually play, but he loved to fight. And obviously made it to the East Coast League and fought well there. But man, some of his tilts were insane. And when he got those eyes, like they lit up like, I'm gonna kill you. Like he just nicest guy off the ice. Like would never know he's a fighter, but when he was mad, and like just get out of his way, let him do his thing. Like I don't think Glenn had to say anything to him about fighting. If anything, Glenn said, stop fighting. You're fighting way too much. But yeah, he was an animal.
So you didn't fight him, but is there one guy that stands out to you as like one of the toughest guys you've had to fight in that league?
Toughest guy. Sorry guys, I gotta get this tree away from my dog. He's making a mess right now. Holding off. I give him a bone. Anyway, toughest guy I fought in that league. I'm sorry. Let me do it when I get this up.
Yeah, no worries. Take a minute. We can cut this out. So
okay.
No problem.
Give me 1 second. 1 second. Okay. 1 sec, guys. Sorry about that.
We're getting
no
to it.
worries.
Yeah, you are getting it too. This is where I work out because there's no gym right now open. Or try to work out anyway. Stop drinking beer.
Feel that.
Beer curls.
Yeah, exactly. 12-ounce curls.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay, one more here. Go. I need that. There you go. All right, we're back. So toughest guy I fought in pro?
Yeah, in kind of your time in the SP.
Oh man. Daniel Ainsbury was pretty tough from Columbus, Georgia. I fought him a few times. Gabriel Boutin in Huntsville beat the crap out of me my first year. He was tough. He was a lefty. I couldn't fight lefty to save my life. I can't throw left either. So if I had to fight a lefty, it was like, I need to, I don't know, either hang in there or just start swinging. Drobot was probably the toughest, actually. We ended up being teammates. He made his first year pros with me, my last year in Fayetteville. And and then I went to, after I left Huntsville, I went to Knoxville, ended up fighting him there. And I didn't want to, but I hammered a guy and he was right there, like, let's go. Okay. So, but he was probably one of my best friends when we played with each other. So yeah, he was a good guy and he's tough. He's still playing on the coast. That
hockey community is so tight, right? You fight a guy, one night and the next night you're out having beers with him, hey?
Oh, 100%. It was just like, we're just doing our job kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, we're here to do our job. After, let's have a beer. That's what it was like.
Was there ever anyone who you felt kind of crossed the line or made things personal?
Not that I remember, but I remember like guys were chirping guys' girlfriends and stuff. Like, oh, so-and-so was in my DMs, like kind of trying to get a guy going. Or at the end of the day, it's probably bullshit. But no one really crossed the line saying stuff. But I remember like 2011, 2012 playing Columbus. And I remember a coach like would tell his players to fight, and he would like the player like, hey, my coach asked me to ask you to fight. I remember just like skating over to like the boards to the coach, like, hey, why don't you do your players' dirty work instead of him? like kind of just trying to get going. But yeah, that's what it was like. Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome. And that league, there's like just looking at the DBs and everything, there's a lot of Canadians down there. Does that bring you guys closer as a community with a large contingent of Canadians in the southern states?
Yeah, it was a lot more Canadians back then than Americans. It was cool. Like, obviously, a lot of the guys are from Ontario, but we had a lot of guys from all over and just kind of talk about, we miss going to Tim Hortons, that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't say that. I say just the bond as a team was good, like it was anywhere else. Even though we played with all Ontario guys here, no difference playing on a team in Huntsville or Knoxville. It was just we were one team and we were here to win.
You actually just mentioned Knoxville. I want to touch on that right away because we've heard some crazy
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
On the road, we hear guys they say it's their least favorite place to play. Like it's a crazy barn, shooters rink.
Yep.
What was it like being home for a season there?
I like going there because it was smaller and meant less skating for me. So this is amazing. And the fans were on top of you, like Pete said. It was like they were giving it to you. But when I signed there, it was actually a long time coming, to be honest. So I'll go back to Huntsville. I went unprotected again after I think I had 29 points. And I was pretty upset. I was mad because I was like, I had a good year. Like, why would they not want me back? So I was like kind of pissed. But there's no communication. At that point, you're protected. Like, you don't talk to anybody. You kind of just move on. And so I actually messaged Mikey, the coach at the time, on Facebook. And I said, hey, Mike, it's Kyle. Want me on your team next year? He goes, I've been waiting for this message for a while. Give me a month. I said, all right. So he had to move some pieces around to fit me in because at that time I was a vet. So you become veteran status at 225 games played in the league. So that's five full seasons playing every game. So I was a vet, and that's when it becomes harder to find a job because you're only allowed 3 vets per team, upwards of 900 games played combined.
Wow.
So he had 2 or 3 vets that were over that, and that he had to move some of them before he could bring me in. So I was kind of on the down low, like, don't mention anybody, but let me do some work. I said, okay. So I waited a month, and then it happened, and then sent me the contract, signed it, PTO. And then I got to Knoxville, and it was just, I loved it. We were ranked as the best team going to the season by some like the Sinbin or blog, or I don't know what it was. But we didn't end up winning, and it was amazing barn. Amazing.
And there's on the flip side of that, we've heard horror stories from DeSalvo especially, and Kaiser kind of touched on it as well, about playing in Louisiana. You would have been there during their existence. So what was it like going to play there for a couple games?
It was cool going there because you're like, oh, I'm going to Louisiana. I've never been there. Like, this is kind of cool. I'm really in the South now, like LSU. And it was good. There was no fans, really. They played in the basketball stadium, so it was massive. And they put this rink right in the middle. And like Kaiser said, they threw little alligators on the ice when they scored. Yeah,
it's like the octopus in Detroit kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or like when Florida Panthers did the Rats back in the day.
Oh yeah,
like that too. But they always had a good team, though. They had good players. It's unfortunate they had to leave. That was kind of a cool place to go and visit when we were on the road. But yeah.
All right. And you've touched on it already, but your last year in the SP, you went back to where you started in Fayetteville. And just looking at the EP, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say that team didn't quite end up working out. What was that year like? What led you back to Fayetteville?
I didn't go into panic mode that summer, but I thought I'd get picked up. I had a decent enough year in Knoxville, and I was pretty well established in the league where everybody knew who I was. And I had mentioned the coach, Nick Mazzolini, at the time, and I was like, hey, you got any room for me, kind of thing. It's like a month and a half till the season starts. He's like, well, I'll call you tomorrow, kind of thing. So we talked and asked what my values were, what I'd bring to the team, kind of thing, and brought me in. I knew he didn't like me off the start. I knew right away he was not a fan. He had meetings with like 4 other guys, and I had more games played than like 3 of them. And I was like, how am I not a leader on this team kind of thing? And anyway, I end up shoving it up his butt. I had 5 goals the first 6 games, and that's when it kind of changed. Like, wow, Kyle can play. And we start off terrible again, but he's hanging on. And then around the 10th or 12th game, the ownership decided to fire him. So he gets fired, and then Ryan Crothers comes in and helps coach the team. We win 2 games that weekend. I don't know how we did. And then we hired Phil Esposito, who was a longtime Federal League coach who got a shot. Not that Phil Esposito.
Oh.
Another one. No, another one. And
what are the odds, though?
I know. Everyone always asks, too. We got Phil Esposito. I'm like, no, not that Phil. And,
was there a second for you as like a player like, yeah, they're gonna get Phil Esposito to come coach the team? Really? No, not that one.
I think I knew who he was, but a couple of other guys didn't know. Like, that's Phil Esposito. I'm like, no, not that Phil Esposito. Like, but yeah, that year was a mess. So we weren't very good. We had 3 coaching changes, I believe, and it was just a mess. Like, I think ownership was new. It was new ownership. The team was sold. So it was kind of new to them too. And I think now they've really figured it out. They had a great season, I think last year or 2 years ago, playing really well there. So they turned things around. But like, I remember the last game of the year, we were out of playoffs. We were supposed to go to Evansville, Indiana. And the bus broke down on the way to pick us up at the arena in Fayetteville.
Oh.
So we get the call, like, okay, just hang on for it. So we're at the arena. It's 2-3 o'clock in the morning. No buses here. We're like, why don't we just cancel this game? Like, half the guys are like, let's just go home. This game is meaningless. Like, none of us are going to the playoffs, and neither is Evansville, who we're playing. And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. Boys are just mad, like upset. We have 9 players, and we have to go to Evansville. It means nothing. So I remember just kind of when I kind of thought, like, wow, I am a player. Like people know who I am in this league. I get a call on my phone at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And it says Huntersville, North Carolina. And I'm like, who is calling me this time in the morning? And I answer it, and it's like, Kyle. I was like, yeah. He goes, it's Jim Combs, the commissioner. I was like, oh, what's up, Jim? How you doing? And he goes, what's going on there? And I said, we're waiting for a bus. He goes, all right, well, I want you to settle the boys down, go back to the apartments, and keep your phone on. I'll give you a call when it gets there. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So he calls me like 8, 9 o'clock, goes, get everyone to the rink. You guys are going to Evansville. All right, see you later. And yeah, we went to Evansville.
The commissioner calls you personally.
Yeah. I'm sure he had talked to like ownership and coaching staff, but he wanted to know what like we were saying, what you were doing. And I was like, we're waiting here in the arena for the bus. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So after that, was there any talk about trying to find another job in the SP, or was that time to go home for you?
Yeah, there was. I actually had reached out to Knoxville again. They had done a coaching change. They hired Jeff Carr. I called him. Actually, it was Joe Toll, who I played with, and at Brock, who was playing the SP at the time. And he said, hey, I just signed in Knoxville. I told Jeff we should probably try to get you here. We'd like to have you here, and, call Jeff and talk to him. So I'm working a hockey camp in Toronto, and he's calling me, and I'm like, I got to call you like after 5 after I'm done. So we get chatting again about what I'd bring to the table kind of thing. And it's all a go. I'm ready to go. Like, yeah, we'll bring you in. So I signed the PTO. But 3 or 4 weeks before training camp, he signed another veteran. So I'm pissed. By this point, he had told me it was only going to be me and another guy, Joe. It's the 2 vets, because that would be under the vet limit games. So he signed another defenseman vet, and I'm pissed. I text him. I said, did you actually sign this so-and-so? He goes, yeah. I was like, I thought it was just me and Joe. And then at that point, I think he knew I was upset, and he called me. And he's like, yeah, we just need more right-handed defensemen. Like, are you willing to compete for a job? And at that point, I have no choice. I already signed. Like, I can't go anywhere else. So I'm like, yep, I've been doing it my whole career, so let's do it again. So I get there and thought I had a good training camp, played the games, and then they ended up keeping the 2D. And that's the first time I've been cut in like 8 or 9 years, I think. And it was a shock to me. I got the call, I went in, packed my stuff, and then kind of sat in my apartment and was like, what am I going to do now? Like, to myself, I'm like, I should get picked up. Like, this should be a no-brainer. I'm like top 10 all time in games played in this league. Like I should get picked up, no problem. No call comes, nothing. I'm like, okay, now I got to make moves. So a guy I played with my first year, Eric Hudson, is now running the Pelham Civic Center in Birmingham, where the Birmingham Bulls are playing. He goes, hey, why don't you come live with me and my wife for a bit until you figure it out? I said, okay. I went there for 2-3 weeks I had talked to Jamie Hicks, the coach of Birmingham in the summer, but he said, hey, our money's tight here. We can't really make things work. Like, I know, sorry, Kyle. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I'm in there. I go into Jamie's office in Birmingham. He's like, what are you doing here? I was like, hey, I need a job. You guys looking for any play right now? And at that point, when the season starts, the team usually goes with that roster for 5 to 10 games without making any changes because they kind of want to work some kinks out, see if they can make the team work. So at that point, I knew I wouldn't be in it playing for maybe a month. And Jamie and I go back and forth. And one day he's like, hey, Kyle, like, we're just going to go with what we got. We're good. I said, okay. And I talked to Evansville, same kind of thing. They're like, we'll see what we do here. We like our vets right now, blah, blah, blah. So I drive home on Halloween, all the way from Birmingham back to Cambridge. Get home. I'm on the phone nonstop trying to find a team. It's not happening. So then I remember we were going, my family and I and my girlfriend were going on a cruise, Christmas cruise. And 3 days for the cruise, I get a call from my roommate, Jake Wood, from the year before. He's playing in Norfolk in the East Coast League. He goes, hey, what are you doing? I was like, nothing, just packing my stuff, going on a cruise. He goes, you want to come play in Norfolk? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, my coach asked me if I knew anybody who wanted to come, and I thought of you. And I was like, honestly, if you told me this 2 weeks ago, yeah, but I'm going on a cruise in 3 days. And yeah, that was it. I never played again.
So
go
ahead.
Sorry, I was going to go to Germany. I didn't say that. After the cruise, I came back. I was going to go to Germany, do the third league. Yeah. And I had my bags packed and everything. Coach calls me. He goes, hey, get on the nearest, pick his flight and get over here. And I said, okay, look at the flights. He goes, just pay for it. I'll reimburse you. I'm like, no. I'm like, you're paying for it. Like, I'm not going into this. So yeah, it's fine. I'll give you my credit card. He goes, when you land in Frankfurt, you're going to tell them you're just a traveler. And I'm like, this is where things got shady. And I was like, okay, I get it now. They don't want to pay for my immigration. So I'm like, I'm not going to go fly into Frankfurt with my hockey bag and sticks. Say, I'm just traveling. Like, it seems like a red flag to me. So I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm staying home. And then that was like kind of the last time I ever thought about playing again, I guess.
So that was after that Germany incident. That was it. Have you been playing much hockey since, or is it kind of just a couple senior games here and there?
Yeah, a couple senior games here and there. That's just more like fun, see the guys, have a beer kind of thing. I would like to get one more game in. I'm tied for in Fayetteville history for most games played ever. So that's one I want to get. I'm at 275, I think. I want to get 276. So I talked to the owner and kind of made like, hey, when you guys start up, wouldn't mind one more game. So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen, but it'd be nice.
I mean,
they could, at least do that for you, right? and give you that record.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean, I wanted to play that one last year because then I would have got, I think, over 400 games played in top 3 all time. So that would have been cool.
Wow.
But yeah.
Is the goal to try and stay involved in hockey in like other ways now as a coach or in some other aspect?
Sorry, say that again.
Is the goal to stay involved in hockey in some other way as a coach or in another aspect?
Yeah, so I coached the under 16 AAA team last year with another friend of mine, Ryan, in Cambridge. That was the OHL draft year. Probably won't do it again, to be honest, just politics.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild in Ontario what happens. So parents and all that, I won't do it ever again. Like, I don't know. I had a couple parents reach out over ice time, anything like just, I don't know, just some parents just need to not talk and let me coach kind of thing. Honestly, that's how it is. Like, and our most successful kids, both 2 kids that got drafted, parents didn't say 0 word the entire year. So there you go. But
I know Matty B coaches Midge Day out in Melfort,
okay.
and I coach U15 trips in Edmonton. So
we
we
know
both
exactly
know
what you're talking
exactly
about.
what you're talking about.
It was hard. Yeah. It was like parents at the door right after the game. And I'm like, what are you doing? We got a 24-hour rule. They're like, I don't care. Why'd you bench my son the last 5 minutes? I'm like, he's -3. That's why. And they're like, what does -3 mean? I'm like, exactly. Like stuff like that. Yeah.
No, coaching takes a special breed. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Before we close out, is there any other stories we haven't covered yet that you want to tell on the pod?
The weird, the unusual, the funny, anything like that.
Well, I did commercials in Huntsville.
Really?
What?
If you guys YouTube the McNeil deal, I think you're going to be blown away. It was pretty good.
We'll have to
That's
put this
pretty
on our
much what I
socials.
was known for after I played Huntsville, like the McNeil deal. And I did a Ric Flair commercial too. Yeah, I pretty much, they're like, oh, you have a job in commercials after hockey. And I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. They did commercials. They came in the room and said, who has the best Southern accent? And I was like, Kyle, it's here. So I did mine. They're like, yep, you're doing the commercial. So then Justin Tateson, who Kaiser mentioned, is a rancher in Alberta. So he had everything, like the cowboy, like tie, everything. I wore all that, did the commercial on a Southern accent. Like, so that was pretty funny. That's pretty much what I was known for after that was the McNeil deal. Did a couple there. I remember one road trip from Fayetteville all the way to Mississippi. I couldn't sleep the entire time. The bus was going back and forth on the rumble strips. Like, we're going to die. We're going to die. We get to Mississippi. We get off the bus. We're like, damn, what was up last night? Dan was the bus driver. He goes, I couldn't see shit out there on the road. And I'm like, what do you mean, Dan? We're like, oh my God, you're missing your right lens and your glasses. He goes, oh, that's why. And it was kind of like, oh my God. It could have been bad. Yeah. Yeah. That was
How long is that
wild.
drive?
12, 14 hours.
Oh my God.
This guy's basically driving blind.
Yeah, it was amazing how he did it. But smoking a dart every 2 minutes too while driving too. So
Oh, jeez.
Oh my goodness.
yeah, I remember that. What else? Who else did I have? I had Mikey one year lose his mind on me in Knoxville. I two-handed a ref by accident. Okay, it's on YouTube too. So we're getting blown out 4-0 to Fayetteville, and I'm kind of away from the net, and I turn around to two-hand the guy who's like pushing me, and as I'm going to two-hand, the ref's putting his hand in between us, and I get him right on here, and he goes down like a sack of potatoes, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, how did that happen? I'm out of the game immediately. I knew that. I'm suspended. It's obviously going to happen. I get in the locker room. We're all sitting down. Mike, the coach, takes his blazer off and just starts ripping me for 5 minutes straight, breaking twigs, throwing toiletry stuff all over the room. It's a mess in there, throwing stuff. And I'm picking it up as he's like throwing it, just trying to like not say a word. Everyone else is dead silent. I'm picking up all this stuff, and I'm like, eventually I'm to the point where I'm getting mad that he's still yelling at me. I remember I grabbed him like right here on his thing. I'm like, what do you want from me? He goes, that's all I wanted. And that was it. And then after the game, we went to his office, we had a drink, and like nothing ever happened.
Wow.
That's
Got suspended for 4 games for the slash, but I apologized to the linesman right away, and he was all fine with it. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Anything else you guys want to cover?
Nope.
No, we covered it all.
Thanks for coming on, Kyle. It was a blast talking to you. We really appreciate taking the time for the interview. I know it's going to be. I know we all enjoyed it. I'm sure our listeners will as well.
All right, awesome guys. Thanks a lot. It was good.
All right.
Yeah. Cheers. Stay safe.
Take care, guys. See ya.